Let's see how the used car market's going. What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about why car values are going down and what this actually means for the automotive market. Now, before I get into the content, if you could do me a huge favor and gently squeeze the like button, it truly means a lot to me. We put a lot of time and effort into each and every single video. This means more to me than anything else, so if you can like, subscribe, tell a friend about us, that would be amazing, or put a comment section below what you guys think of this video, or if there's any other topics you want me to do. Now, I need you guys to listen to me very carefully. We're going to be talking about how car values are going down, not car prices. Now, traditionally, if car values go down, car prices will follow. But in 2023, the land of where nothing makes sense and everything is absolutely crazy, one does not follow the other. Now, unfortunately, a lot of dealers are not able to lower their prices because they either bought these cars for too much, put too much recon into them, or they had so much carrying costs with their flooring line, interest, and everything else from carrying them and not selling them that they're into the cars too deep and they can't afford to lower prices. But we're gonna get into all that and a whole lot more. But first, I wanna go over one of my own personal cars. Now, about 2 months ago, I bought an Audi Q8. Now, this is a great car. I got it for a great deal. It's a 2019, and it needed an alternator and some other recalls done from the factory. So I waited almost a month for the alternator. I just got it back from recalls, and within the 2-month time span, I'm gonna show it right here, I lost almost $6,000 in value. Just to give you kind of a glimpse of what's currently happening. Now, this is a popular SUV, a lot of people like it, but for some reason between when I bought it till now, within about almost 2 months, I'd say maybe about 55-ish days, we lost $6,000 worth of value. Now, keep this in mind, this is going all the way across the board. Now, why are vehicle values going down? Well, as we move deeper into this recession, we see the demand for vehicles slowly dwindling. On top of that, we're seeing supply slowly build up, and then throwing even the worst cherry on top is the banks are getting smacked with lots of repos as well as dwindling car values, so they don't know where to offset their risk when it comes to lending. So now I'm going to talk about how car values going down is going to affect not only dealers, but banks as well. Now, this is very important. Now, remember, I lost $6,000 just on one car. I have a few cars that I've had for over 30 days. This is why we always preach turn them and burn them. You want to move your inventory within 60 days. You don't want to keep it any longer. Well, during the pandemic, a lot of dealers were taught a lot of bad habits in keeping stuff. You can't replace it. You need to hold on to it, get all the money. And so now a lot of these dealers have all this aged inventory that's just sitting there. And a lot of these guys bought these at the peak of almost last year, which is absolutely insane. I never thought I would actually say that there's cars that are almost a year old, and some dealers that have cars that are a year old, they're still on factory dealer lots, which is absolutely insane. Well, all this does is basically let them know that they purchased a car at top price for top money, right? And then they have, let's say, recon costs, and then they have all their carrying costs. Now, nothing is free in this world, and especially our flooring lines or our lines of credit as dealers. Every month, just add on another $100 on top of a car that they buy. So if they bought this car for, let's say, I don't know, $80,000, every month you can literally just throw on another $100, $200, $300, $500 on top of it. And little by little, once you hit a year, the stack's gonna look like this and you owe way too much money on your vehicle. Now, remember, I lost $6,000 on one vehicle. Let's just round that off to, let's say, I don't know, $3,000. And you go to a franchise store that has tons of cars that are in the $30,000 to $90,000 range. Now, let's say we take an average dealer with 200 to 300 cars on their lot, a franchise store. Now, how much money did they lose if we were to take $3,000 off of each car? The math should be around $900,000 is what they lost in the last 60 days in vehicle value. Now, this is traditionally how auto sales works. Every single month, the value of your cars go down. So that's what makes us dealers want to basically get rid of this burden and sell this car. Now, unfortunately, like I said, a lot of dealers owe way too much money on their cars and they can't liquidate them or sell them. And they can't find banks to basically buy these cars. So I have no idea why a lot of these dealers are sitting on this aged inventory. Now it's going to get to a point where they're going to have to take major losses. We've already seen multiple companies going out of business. I know there's Auto King, Off Lease just went out of business down in Florida, a really big company. There's a lot of small used car dealerships that specialize in their own financing companies are going out of business, basically big buy here, pay here companies, because they lent too much money on too nice of cars and they basically took it in the shorts. Now, dealers are not going to want to share this information with you. They're going to hope that you still pay full retail. Normally, traditionally, they would lean on the banks to pay up some of this over-exorbitant money for a car that's simply not worth it. But right now, like I said, banks are not actually paying that, which I'll get to here in a minute. So now dealers have no choice but to basically sit there and wait. And this is where all the patience that we've been talking about for the last year or two come off into play. Now, there's going to be a lot of discounts coming here very soon because I've never seen so many franchise dealers actually scared. Every once in a while, they'll push through a few units and they'll get excited. They'll think, okay, we're back to normal. We're doing good. But as more and more aged inventory sits on their lots, and especially with a lot of these newer cars coming in, it's starting to scare them. Now, I know if you're looking for a new Honda or Toyota, they don't have a lot of supply. But if you're looking for a Dodge, Jeep, Ford, Hyundai, stuff like that, there's tons of these things on there because they ramped up production and now they're starting to fill the lots. So don't get it twisted. If you go to a dealership and they don't want to sell your car for MSRP or below MSRP, just walk away. I prefer you guys to actually look for something that's used. You'll probably get a much better deal, and call these dealers and actually offer them lower amounts. If this car is listed for 80, call them and offer them for 70. So if they tell you to go kick rocks, that's okay. You gotta shoot your shot. Ask them, what's the lowest you'll take? I'm serious buyer. Go down there with a cashier's check for 70 grand. See what you can do. A lot of times you can make stuff happen if you go in person and you're persistent and you continue to negotiate. I hate it when people are like, oh, the car's 80 grand. It's too much money. I'm not going to buy it for that. And they just walk away. You have to go in there and be serious. Once you start negotiating, I guarantee you a lot of these dealers want to get the hell out of their aged inventory. So let's go ahead and talk about how vehicle values going down is going to affect the way banks actually approve loans and actual lending practices. Now, we have two different banks we're going to give you examples of. We have first one, which is your tier one bank, which is low interest, maybe single digit interest. They're going to be loaning on much more expensive cars, maybe something between $60,000 and $120,000. And then we have our subprime banks, which are usually lending anywhere from, let's say, $15,000 to $30,000 and is usually double digit interest. Now, both of these have a major place in the US economy. They're going to be doing a lot of loans. Now, traditionally, the way banks would do this is they would either get money from the Fed or they would borrow money from either hedge funds or other banks at a certain interest rate. Now, how do banks borrow money? Well, sometimes they have good credit, they have lines of credit. A lot of times they use their loan portfolio to back their loan so this way they can get more money. So if they have this particular auto loan portfolio that's prime customers, and they're like, look, this is worth, I don't know, $5 million. Can we borrow maybe $10, $20 million? So traditionally, the bank will say, okay, well, I see you have $5 million in actual collateral. We're going to take that and give you $10 million. Well, as long as that vehicle collateral is good and your portfolio is performing, the banks will continue to give you money. But guess what happens when your portfolio numbers go out of skew? What I mean by this is either you have lots of repos, what we're seeing now, so man, the banks are going to look at this like, wow, your portfolio is not performing that well. We're going to have to take some of this money away because, your paper's not doing that good. So let's say they take away, $2, $3 million that you're getting this quarter. That's gone. And on top of that, remember, the vehicle values are going down. So a lot of people that are buying this grade A type of paper, these people that are buying these brand new cars for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over MSRP with either little to no money down or financing 150, 160% of LTV, well, guess what their cars are worth now? Probably lower than MSRP. So how do you think the vehicle value of this $5 million portfolio is? I bet you it's closer to probably $3.8 million now. So now the banks look at it, or the Fed or whoever else is giving them money is gonna be like, wow, that's really risky. I gave you all this money and now your portfolio is going down. This means you don't know how to lend. So what do? They take back even more money. And as you can see, this cycle continues more and more till the banks have less and less money to lend. Now, this is the prime customers. This is usually something that never happens. They don't see that much vehicle value in droppage, and they don't see record high repo rates like we currently have right now. Not only that, but you got to remember, even though the tier 1 credit people, it went from 2% to 4% when it comes to repos, but it almost tripled when it came to 30 and 60 days that are delinquent. That is the big money factor. So even though they have a bunch of repos, their delinquency is even higher. So they'll penalize them, not as bad as the other one. They probably won't take a stack, but I bet you they'll take a few bucks off of that. Now, this is tier 1 paper. This is how aggressive they are when it comes to pulling back the money. Let's talk about the subprime market. What are they going to do? Now, we all know that subprime market is probably one of the toughest things to lend in, but it's also the most profitable, and banks know this. And this is why they'd much rather diversify their risk with the cars. Now, remember, a lot of the cars that these subprime banks buy are probably anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000. So they can do about 3 to 4 different cars for the same amount of price as one of these high line, let's call them tier 1 cars or good credit cars. Now, the funny thing is one of these subprime cars, the interest they make off of this will pay for 3 of what these guys are making off of interest for these more expensive qualified loans. But that's why they diversify, because if they can give 3 of these cars, they know that one of these customers are probably going to default, they're going to have to repo it, and they're going to sell it at a loss, whatever else. Maybe the second guy might have a few late payments, but all they basically need is I think it's 1.18 of car loans to go through, and this will make all their money, then some, and the interest. Because you got to remember, some of these subprime loans are in the 22 to 25% range. And get this, I've seen Dodge Chargers, I hate to use that car for the model, but I've seen a lot of Dodge Chargers at 25% interest on a $40,000 vehicle. We're talking a stupid amount of money. So guess what's happening in the subprime market? Yes, we're having delinquencies and we're having repos at an all-time high, but they already calculate this into their interest. So now, instead of taking off big stacks, they're not doing that. They're just taking a few dollars off here and there, but still giving the banks more money. Well, we know this paper is good. We know you're going to make some more money, so we're going to do that. As delinquency rates go up and vehicle values drop, they get a little more scared, but all they do is they outrun their debt with issuing more new loans. So they'll take a few bucks away from the actual vehicle value. But at the end of the day, if you could see, the subprime market is not shrinking as fast as the prime market. Now, traditionally, this would not be the same way, but as we watch a lot of the subprime markets grow, because these guys will always lend to people with bad credit. I hate to say it, there's always going to be people around with bad credit that need to buy a car, that need to drive around. And a lot of these people, unfortunately, never refinance. I've sold cars to people 4 or 5 years ago that are calling me today saying, hey, I just paid off my car, I'm ready to buy a new one. I'm like, fantastic. Have you guys refinanced it, or who'd you build an account with? Oh, no, we were still with Westlake or Credit Acceptance. I was like, so you paid 28% interest this whole time for 5 years? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, go ahead and add that up and you'll see how much money you've spent. They pretty much paid double for the car. But that's what the subprime market's doing. Now, don't get me wrong. They are taking hits and they're getting a lot of losses because remember, that portfolio is not as worth as much. So the banks did pull back quite a bit of money, not as much as the prime, but still enough where this way they're getting even tighter when it comes to lending, because with subprime, what basically pushed the deal through are down payments. And guess what Americans don't have? They don't have money. They can't afford the down payments. So now all these cars are sitting on the lot. The banks don't know what to do. They're trying to be aggressive with lending, but at the same point, every time they have another car repoed, it scares them that much more. Because remember, banks do everything off of numbers of risk. So every time that needle moves just a little bit, they get a 0.5 percentage point of risk, basically more repos, maybe more defaults, more delinquencies, a vehicle values dropping. They keep changing the narrative. So it may not be that much. It may they may have started with maybe 10% with down payments. Now they're going at maybe 15%, 18%, 20%. And then remember, they affect the dealers as well. Maybe they charge a 5% fee to buy the loan. Maybe they charge 8%, 10%. And all these things add up to where it's not able to do the loan because it just doesn't make sense. So now that the banks can't make any money off these loans and they're afraid of the risk, what does that mean for the dealer? How are they going to sell their cars? And that's the trick. They can't. So I know this is kind of funny, and you guys always make fun of me using my toys, but I'd love to know what you think of this current automotive market. What are your opinions? Do you like my funny breakdown with a bunch of toys and random things? I'd love to hear you guys in the comment section below. Also, please put any vehicle ideas or actually any ideas for videos that you guys have. It truly means a lot to me if you guys are interactive with me. I truly appreciate it. Once again, follow me on Instagram at Lucky Lopez. Also on Twitter, I don't know why I'm popular on Twitter, but I never post there. So I got about 70-something thousand followers that I never even do anything with. But I promise you, I'm going to get better at posting on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, make sure you follow me at Lucky Lopez. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I got some cool stuff lined up for you this weekend. So stay tuned till Monday.